But that's also part of it. That's why I say credibility is, how can I be genuine? How can I show my true self, but with a specific plan of action?
Man, I don't think there's anything disingenuous about that. I think that let's take this whole you and I look at me and you. This podcast, our friendship, somebody I love dearly, came from me tactically going to certain masterminds or certain meetups, not to be like, hey, I want to meet somebody and make them a client or get money out of them, as much as let me go find somebody I connect with. And at the very least, I've made a friend. If I made a friend, even one friend, I have won. Um, and that's been what's happened for a year. And as a result, I've made four people that I can truly call friends, whether we fucking do business or not. Truly call friends because I tactically went to these situations looking for that, made the connections, and then a podcast happened to come of it. And whatever happens with this podcast, I don't give a shit. Dimitri's my boy. I've already won. So I see nothing selfish or anything about that. I think that it's smart.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that, Chris, and I totally feel the same way. And it was a fortunate meetup that we were able to meet at that mastermind. And it was, if I remember correctly, it was already when the mastermind was over, and kind of people were chit chatting there at the end, and people were leaving when we first got to speak. And so I'm grateful for that.
Yes,
Totally,
sir.
it was a huge win. Now with going into these communities, and so let me just build in some more context, I think, for
Okay.
kind of for all of us and for the viewers. So there's things that happen, positive and negative, in life, and there's ways. For example, there could be a, just going back to the tornado thing, that could be a negative thing that could happen to your community, and you want to have a resilient community and one that supports each other's neighbors. And now that is a whole deep conversation of how you build a community that's resilient. But as an individual, how can you build individual resiliency through your community? On the positive side, like, I just pulled up this fun article about the, I think it's called the DeKalb Corn Fest in Illinois, and they've grown to over 100,000 attendees. And I bet that it was just some guy who liked to boil corn, or some gal, or a family, and they just shared their passion out with the world, going to farmers market or this and that, and it's grown into this huge community event that brings people together. So both on a positive and negative perspective, this bringing people together through marketing, by the way, this does not exist without marketing of some kind, word of mouth, or actual direct response, paid ads, or social media, or whatever the case may be. Marketing is involved in both positive and negative community stuff. So how do we make it
Absolutely.
happen?
There's so many ways. I'll give you one that I've seen that I thought was super dope. Heather McLeod. I think you met her. She drove to the event with us. And
Mhm.
long story short, again, guys talking about randomly going to places. I go to this event, and then literally like two streets over lives somebody who's a killer. She owns a killer in the real estate business. At the end of the day, killer in the real estate business, and one of her houses is two streets over. So I go hang out with her, and she says of all the places that she has houses in, and all the places that she lives, she loves this community. Why is that? This community has a Facebook group, and in this group is led by a few people, and they organize all types of shit for that little block over there. All types of events are happening that are organized within the community. And talking about resiliency, anytime something happens to one member in that community, the whole community comes together. So, for example, somebody had recently lost their husband to cancer. And when he was going through the whole chemo process, she really needed support that she couldn't get from her family who lived elsewhere. So she pulled up to the house from chemo and was having trouble getting her husband out of the vehicle. All she had to do was drop a message in the group. Boom. People are coming out of their houses to come help her. She didn't have to worry about anything to eat for a very long time. Um, there's so many ways to go about building resiliency and building a community. But to your point with the story of the corn thing, and then this community, or this community over here with the Facebook group, it just took a couple of people, or it took one person to start a Facebook group. It took one person to think of, hey, I want to have this corn thing. I love whatever. And then it will grow organically from there if you are, using the word you used earlier, consistent.
There's a group that my wife has been a part of, a mom's co-op, and anytime somebody's due with their baby, had been pregnant, now due, it's a combination of how can we help you, what food can we bring, it's a dinner schedule, it's a support schedule, babysitting schedule, and it's been amazing to see. And similarly to the group that you mentioned, helping with that cancer situation, and just thinking about how we do marketing, right? We do paid ads with the intention of getting someone to buy or believe. It seems like the way true community gets built is through these genuine connections. So, how come most marketing doesn't realize or doesn't appreciate the fact that that's building that connection is the most important part, and just presenting an advertisement like once, people are asking, well, why, well, like, why am I not getting leads, or why are they low quality leads? They don't know you, they don't care about you. What do you think?
Instant gratification, man. I think looking at it, let's say, you know, somebody like me coming out of the bowels of affiliate marketing, dude, you know how it was back in the day. You know, it used to be super easy. You drop an ad, and then all of a sudden you're making, well, not that easy, but when you got a hang of how to do marketing, you could make an ad, and the next thing you know, you're getting money that day. And if it blows up, you're getting money fast. It's happening pretty fast. And now we're in a world where it doesn't work that easy, and people don't just click on your shit and buy. They click on your shit and they go YouTube you, and they go read reviews, and they go to Amazon and this and that. There's a longer buying cycle because people need trust. That's in our world. And then you look at, just if I'm serving a client who's like, hey, I started my campaign yesterday, how come I'm not getting leads today? That's just the world of today. It's instant gratification. You can go to TikTok or Facebook, watch a short, get an instant dopamine hit. If you want a cool little mug right now, you order it today, it's here tomorrow. The world is optimized and cares for instant gratification. I might want, and I'll shut up, I'll get off my little high horse here in a second, but there's a bunch of people who sit there and say, hey, I want $1 million business. I want this, that, and the other. They come home from the regular job, they go home and they watch Netflix. Because that's easy. That's what's much more gratifying than having to actually build that business. I want a six pack. Okay, then they come home with a bag of McDonald's. That's easy. It's not, you know what I mean? They're not thinking 3 months, hey, let me eat this today, and then 6 months from now, I'll have a six pack. So I know I'll get off my little soapbox here, but that's my thought on it.
I'm glad that you brought up instant gratification, because one of the topics that I want to talk about is mental health, especially mental health in children, how it relates to community, how it relates to marketing. So getting that just after this is that um, it's like, it seems like the world is splitting into two, where it's one side is the instant gratification, the other side is just all about finding their community, and maybe they are willing to put in the work, but it just, like, taking from, I think we talked about this the other day too, is big companies like Johnson & Johnson, Procter and Gamble, they used to dominate with one, two, three products, right? It's just everyone would buy the Band-Aids or whatever. Everyone would buy the bleach that they had to offer. But now, like taking the bleach example, or uh, whatever that soap is that you put in your washing machine, um, there's so many different options, and as a consumer, you're finding your community through your purchasing behavior. So yes, instant gratification on one side, but also just this importance of community, smaller brands, niches, all this other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have much to even add to that, really. Like, I agree. I have like nothing of significance to add to that one.
Well, and that's the difference that I hope that for me personally happens in this move is that I will go from the instant gratification, no preparation
Right.
mindset into actually having a plan, having a goal in mind. How do I see this going? And then realizing through these examples, and there's so many of them like that corn fest, that you can, in your own local community, you can create so much positive influence by just putting an idea out there. The local, people, and just not really talking about politics, but everyone's like, who's going to be president, this or that. But and it's the local actions that matter most, and it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much money the government is giving to you for a local. Money is just paper, right? Or it's numbers on a screen. Like, there has to be action. So it's nice to see this corn fest as an example of action.
If you or when you put thought into your strategy, Dmitri, for y'all who don't know Dmitri, um, when he starts doing strategy, it's beautiful. And let's give you a quick example. Dimitri can have a idea of something and then look at the outcomes and then give you a statistical probability of the outcomes based on his actions. Who the fuck thinks like that? And so, point being is when you start being strategic about something, I have no doubt that you will reach your aim because it's not just to me. I lean heavily on the art. You are a great mixture of art and science, and numbers don't lie. I mean, they can if you fib them, but in this case, you use data to drive your strategy. And so, dude, you go up to Virginia with a plan, then I have no doubt.
Well, I appreciate that, and I look forward to you visiting sooner than later. But as the months and the years go on, hopefully there's more community that I'll be able to show you as we go.
Hell yeah.
Okay, going to the mental health aspect of this is that, as we know, post pandemic and post the lockdowns, especially, that a lot of people have been affected by depression, loneliness, mental health issues, and exacerbated pre existing conditions. And the question, the kind of the easy question is kind of why it happened. But the more important question is using these words that we talked about, the C words, and marketing. How can it get better? And I'm just going to show you, and I'm going to read you an example of a community. This is in the UK. West Berkshire Council has implemented strategies for engagement with this specific demographic post pandemic to get them back. Because let me read you some statistics. It's like, I don't know if these are accurate, and like data doesn't lie unless, like you said, like they're just made up. But 83% of children reported increased negative feelings since the lockdown, with 96% of those who were locked down for extended period experiencing heightening distress, and it's still persisting. They're rising loneliness since then. We know the social media aspect of this, but I think there was also just, whatever the effect of that was, pre-existing conditions for some reason are getting worse. But so going back to the question is, how can we use community, how can we use the 5 C's, and how can we use marketing to connect and improve the mental health of the population?
Let me zoom out of this. And I'm going to bookmark that question because I have something that comes to mind with when you're talking about mental health. And granted, basically, my thoughts are probably not going to be the most popular here. And I'm coming, and I know I'll tell you why. I'm black, and in the black community, this thing is not very popular. Period. At least yeah, it's not very popular in the black community. Mental health services and help and things like that. I'm Jamaican, not very popular in that culture. So you have those two things, and also,
Don't worry,
I was
be happy. Sorry to, this is a mental health strategy.
That's your mental health, right? Exactly. That's your therapy. Um, and then I was born in the '80s, where this is not talked about when we were growing up, and then definitely our parents were talking about it. So my thoughts on mental health or might be a little jaded. Now, let me say this. I understand if somebody is clinically depressed. That's something that I have I can't relate with that. Like if you clinical depression, yo, get help. Clinical anxiety, like soul crushing anxiety. I'm not talking about all that type of stuff. Well, this is what I'm talking about, Dmitri. Before I answer your question, I have a harder time with mental health nowadays because I do feel like it becomes an easy button for some people.